Welcome to Gemara Academy. In this class, we will learn the Gemara Masechta Shabbos on the Vav Amud Aleph and the Vav Amud Beis. Let's begin by looking at the general outline of the Sugya. In the previous Gemara, we presented a brisa that described and discussed the four Rishuyos of Shabbos: Rishus HaYachid, Rishus HaRabim, there was a Karmelis, and a Mokim P'tur. In this Gemara, we're going to begin by asking some questions on the brisa and analyzing this brisa. So we're going to ask four questions on the next piece. The first question is going to be on the part of the brisa that described what's a Rishus HaYachid. The second question is going to be on the part of the brisa that described what's a Rishus HaRabim. The third question is going to ask why we don't count the desert, the Midbar, as a Rishus HaRabim. And the fourth question is going to be on the part of the brisa that described the din, that discussed the din of when a person carries from Rishus HaYachid to Rishus HaRabim, or from the Rishus HaRabim to Rishus HaYachid. So this is just the first part of the Gemara that's analyzing the brisa, and in the next piece of the Gemara we're going to continue in our discussion of this brisa. We broke it up into two pieces because it's a long Gemara. So let's begin by looking at the flowchart of the Gemara. So here we begin with the brisa that described the four Rishuyos of Shabbos. And the Gemara begins by pointing out, it says, Omar Mar, the brisa said at the end, we described the Rishus HaYachid. At the end of the description, the brisa concluded, Zuhi Rishus HaYachid Gemara. So the brisa began, Zuhi Rishus HaYachid. What's a Rishus HaYachid? The brisa then presented two examples of a Rishus HaYachid. And then the brisa concludes, Zuhi Rishus HaYachid. This is a Rishus HaYachid. So the Gemara asks, what's it coming to exclude? When it says this is a Rishus HaYachid, the indication is that this is a Rishus HaYachid and something else is not. What's the something else? What's the case that the brisa is coming to exclude when it says this is a Rishus HaYachid? The Gemara answers, it's coming to exclude a teaching of Rabbi Yehuda. And the Gemara presents the brisa where we have the teaching of Rabbi Yehuda. The brisa says, the brisa presented one din of Rabbi Yehuda, and then continued, Yeser al Kain Amar Rabbi Yehuda. Rabbi Yehuda said even more than this. Rabbi Yehuda said that if a person has two houses, one on each side of the Rishus HaRabim, so there's a Rishus HaRabim in the middle, and on each side there's a house, Rabbi Yehuda says that the area in between is a Rishus HaYachid, and the person is able to make a post on either side of one of the houses, or you could place a beam on either side across from one house to the other, and with that he's able to now carry within that area more than Daled Amos, and he needs the post or the beam simply because it doesn't look like a Rishus HaYachid. So Rabbi Yehuda holds that this area is a Rishus HaYachid, and the Rabbanan said to him that a person can't make a Rishus HaRabim into a Rishus HaYachid by putting up two posts or two beams. They argue, they say the area in between is not a Rishus HaYachid, and a person is not allowed to carry more than 4 Amos there. And this is what our brisa means to say when it says this is a Rishus HaYachid. However, the case of Rabbi Yehuda, the individual who owns a house on each side of the street, that area in between is not a Rishus HaYachid. The Gemara now continues and asks a question on the same words of the brisa. It says, and why does it say Gemura? It says Zuhi Rishus HaYachid Gemura. Why does that add the word Gemura at the end? And the Gemara answers, because a person might think that really the Rabbanan agree with Rabbi Yehuda, that the area between the houses is a Rishus HaYachid. However, since it doesn't look like a Rishus HaYachid, the Rabbanan say that a person is not allowed to carry there more than 4 Amos. And therefore, since it's really a Rishus HaYachid, if a person were to carry from the Rishus HaRabim into that area, or from that area to the Rishus HaRabim, he would be chayiv. Kamash Mona comes to teach us that the Rabbanan hold that it's not a Rishus HaYachid whatsoever. And if the person carried from the Rishus HaRabim to that area, or from that area to the Rishus HaRabim, if it's less than 4 Amos, he won't be chayiv. And we learned this from the word Gemura, because Gemura means, like Rashi points out, it'll come up in a scroll, that it has to have, its walls need to be complete. 2 walls is not complete. Its walls need to be complete in order to be considered a Rishus HaYachid. So Gemara tells us that this area is not a Rishus HaYachid whatsoever. Complete means that the walls must be all there, and 2 walls aren't enough, and therefore it's not a Rishus HaYachid at all. So with that we explained the first part of the brisa that we asked question on. We explained why it says Zuhi Rishus HaYachid, what's it coming to exclude, and we explained why it uses the word Gemura at the end. The Gemara now continues to the next part of the brisa. The next part of the brisa is similar. It says Ve'ezuhi Rishus HaRabim. In which case is a Rishus HaRabim? The brisa presents 3 examples of a Rishus HaRabim, and then it concludes Zuhi Rishus HaRabim Gemura. So the Gemara asks once again, Lemutei Mai, what's it coming to exclude when it says this is a Rishus HaRabim, as opposed to what? The Gemara answers, Lemutei Idach de Rabbi Yehuda. It's coming to exclude the other case of Rabbi Yehuda. It's another case of Rabbi Yehuda that we're coming to exclude. The Gemara presents the Mishnah where this teaching is brought from Rabbi Yehuda. It's going to come up in a scroll in a moment explaining what this is all about. But the Oile Regalim, they would need to drink water when they came up to Yerushalayim. And so they would have wells throughout Yerushalayim. The problem was that the well itself was a Rishus HaYachid. The area outside of the well could possibly possibly be a Carmelis or Rosh Hashanah. So they were unable to bring water from the well outside of the well on Shabbos. So in order to address this problem, they would build around the well, and it had to be within 10 amas. It couldn't be too large of an area. They would build corner posts. They would have 4 posts, one on each corner, that were shaped like a corner, and then the area within that well becomes a Rosh Hashanah, and the person is permitted to bring water out of the well to the area that he's standing in. So Rabbi Yehuda said, if the path of the public were to go through these posts, that means we had the 4 posts were one on each corner, and the public's path went through this area, Rabbi Yehuda said this causes a problem that the area now becomes a Rosh Hashanah, and it's necessary to change the path of the public to go around the posts so that it could be a proper Rosh Hashanah. And the Rabbanan said to him that it's unnecessary. The path of the public could continue going through the area, and it remains a Rosh Hashanah. So we have the scroll that explains in the olden days, wells were considered a Rosh Hashanah, and the area outside of the wells was a Carmelis or Rosh Hashanah. So for the benefit of the Olim L'Regel, the Chazal established that with 4 corners alone, 4 posts, the area becomes a Rosh Hashanah as long as the area between them is less than 10 amas. So basically this is what it looked like. The well was in the middle, so an area of 10 amas was created, and they would build a corner post on each corner, and then they could carry it within. So what our Mishnah means to say, to exclude, when it says Zuhi Rosh Hashanah, these cases are Rosh Hashanah, but not that case where there were 4 posts and the public went through. That area is not a Rosh Hashanah. The Brisa is disagreeing with the opinion of Rabbi Yehuda. The Gemara now continues and asks the next question on these words of the Brisa, because the Brisa concludes Zuhi Rosh Hashanah Gemara. Why does it add the word Gemara? This is a complete Rosh Hashanah. The Gemara answers that since we use the word Gemara in the Reisha, we also use it in the Seifa. So it's just to align the Brisa. Since the Brisa finished off in its first part, Zuhi Rosh Hashanah Gemara, so we end off over here as well, Zuhi Rosh Hashanah Gemara. We now continue on to the next question. The Gemara asks, V'lichshav nami midbar. Let the Brisa also consider a midbar as one of the cases that is a Rosh Hashanah. The Brisa says there are 3 Rosh Hashanah: an intercity highway, a public plaza, and roads that are 16 amas wide and open on both ends. So the Gemara asks, it should also count the midbar, and the reason it should count the midbar. So the Gemara presents a Brisa where that Brisa says that there are 4 cases that are Rosh Hashanah: an intercity highway, a public plaza, roads that are 16 amas wide and open on both ends, and the midbar and the desert. So the Gemara answers, Loikashi, it's not a question. The 2 Brisas are not a contradiction. Our Brisa that says that it's not a Rosh Hashanah is referring to our days, when there isn't a large population in the midbar, and therefore it's not a Rosh Hashanah. And that Brisa that considers it Rosh Hashanah is referring to when the Yidden were in the midbar, after they left Mitzrayim, where then there was a large population in the midbar, and therefore it was a Rosh Hashanah. And Gemara now continues on to the last point in of discussing the first part of the Brisa. When the Brisa finishes describing the Rosh Hashanah and the Rosh Hashanah, it goes on to teach us the din related to the Rosh Hashanah and Rosh Hashanah. And it says, if a person carries from Rosh Hashanah to Rosh Hashanah, or from the Rosh Hashanah to the Rosh Hashanah, if he did it b'shegeg, he's chayav to bring a carbon chatas. If he did it b'mezid, he's punished with karas or skila, depending if all the conditions needed for skila are in place or not. So the Gemara asks, this that he's chayav to bring a carbon chatas when he did it b'shegeg is obvious. Why does it have to teach it to us? So the Gemara answers that the truth is that it is obvious. We didn't need to teach it, and the only reason we taught it is that since we need to teach the din b'mezid, that if a person was machal Shabbos by carrying b'mezid, he's chayav karas or skila. So since we taught the din of mezid, we also taught the din of shegeg. So the Gemara continues and challenges this answer, that the din of mezid is also obvious. If a person is machal Shabbos by carrying, if he did it b'mezid, it's obvious that he's chayav and punished by karas or skila. So the Gemara answers that it's not obvious. When he did it b'mezid, it's not obvious, and therefore we need to teach the din of mezid, and that's why we taught shegeg as well, just because we taught mezid. And the Gemara explains and says it's kid Rav. There's a chiddush in this like Rav. And now we're going to present a side discussion which will explain what this is referring to when we say it's like Rav. So it's going to be an arrow pointing up to this answer because it's completing the answer, and also pointing downwards because we're going to lead into the answer and actually say it out. So this case of Rav is that Rav said Matzasi Megillah Starim Bei Rabbi Chia. Rav said that he found a hidden scroll in the Beis Medrash of Rabbi Chia, and it said in the scroll that Avos Malachos are Boim Chasar Achas. There are 39 Avos Malachos, and a person's only chayev for one of them. Ve'ene chayev ela achas. A person's only chayev one carbon for doing all those malachos. So the question was asked, How can we say a person is only chayiv one korban chatas for doing all the malachas? We know that later in Paraklal Gadol, the Mishnah says, Avos malachas arboim chasar achas. There are 39 avos malachas. And then the Mishnah goes on and actually counts out all the malachas. And the question is asked, why does it need to tell us the number? If it's actually counting the malachas, we could count on our own. Why does it need to tell us the number? And the explanation that's given is to teach us there are 39 avos malachas, is teaching us that a person could be chayiv 39 korbanos. So if a person forgot that it was Shabbos, did all the avos malachas, and then realized and remembered that it is Shabbos, he's chayiv to bring 39 korbanos. So how could this Megillah Starim say that a person is only chayiv one? So Isi ben Yehuda explained that what it means to say is that a person's not chayiv on one of them. In other words, the Megillah Starim that was found in the Beis Medrash Rabbi Chia said that there are 39 avos malachas, but on one of them a person's not chayiv the punishment of skila. One malacha a person's not chayiv skila for. We don't know which one. And that's the chiddush in our brayso when it says that if a person carried from this Rishus HaYachid to this Rishus HaRabim, or this Rishus HaRabim to this Rishus HaYachid, that he's chayiv, if he did it b'mezid, he's chayiv Chorus. And Skila is coming to tell us that this is not the case. This is not the malacha that there's a question about. All the other malachas, we might have a question. Is it the one that a person is not chayiv skila for? But on Hitzah is not a question whatsoever. A person is certainly chayiv skila. So there we have the answer for why he needs to teach us the din of shegig, since it taught the din of mezid. And the chiddush in mezid is that if a person was machal Shabbos b'mezid, by carrying, he's certainly chayiv skila. This is not the case. This is not the malacha that is referred to when it says one malacha a person is not chayiv skila for. So to summarize the Gemara, we had 4 discussions. First, we discussed the words Zuhi Rishus HaYachid Gemura. We discussed what's it coming to exclude and why we have the word Gemura. Then we went on to discuss the words Zuhi Rishus HaRabim Gemura. Again, what's it coming to exclude and why we have the word Gemura. Then we asked why a midbar is not included in the cases of the Rishus HaRabim. And the final part of the Gemara is we discussed why it needs to teach us the din of shegig and mezid if it's obvious.